My name is Stan Harris. I'm serve as the CEO of the Louisiana Restaurant Association, and on behalf of our partners at the Louisiana Travel Association and their CEO, Jill Kidder, we welcome you to this webinar. Today, we'll share information on the LED Guaranteed Lending Program. Louisiana economic development is about sourcing and considering programs that support our economy and opportunity. In addition to the Secretary, we have Pat Whitty, who works in small business with us today. Early in the COVID crisis, we shared with Governor Edwards' administration the needs that small business would have the longer this persisted. After Hurricane Katrina, there was another program that provided bridge loans until other funding sources became available. But our LED leadership took a better approach, working with the Louisiana Bankers Association to develop this lending program targeted for small business. It's innovative, targeted, and has broad bank participation options. And they were able to get this idea from idea to implementation in under 30 days. And given all the other things they were doing, that's astonishing. The program would not have happened without the drive of our LED Secretary and his team. So it's my pleasure to introduce and welcome Secretary Don Pearson. Mr. Secretary, welcome.
Stan, thank you so much, and Jill as well, for this opportunity to continue to share some information with our small business community. We know that small businesses really are the backbone of our economy, and you're seeing how broken our economy is today, largely because so many of our small businesses are offline. So something that we have said for many, many years regarding the importance of small business is now manifest itself in a terrible way. But certainly it underscores why we've had such a strong commitment to small business and particularly ramp that up over the last 4 years. At Louisiana Economic Development, we'll talk about our loan guarantee program here in a few minutes, but there's an entire suite of services that are available to small businesses. And so it really makes a lot of sense for companies to explore what their options are, what the tools in the toolkit are, and be able to access those. And you don't have to just wander around. We know small business owners don't have enough hours in the day. There's more than enough to do. But around the state in 9 different locations, we've got small business development centers. Now, you can't walk in today, obviously, because of social distancing, but they are available online, and they are available mask to mask in locations around the state. So as we talk about some programs today, and all of this is available for your review at our website, which is opportunitylouisiana.com. If you go there, we can easily navigate through those screens about some of the small business programs that are readily available. And that's not just for a new business, that's taking a mature business from good to great. We've got programs that do economic gardening is what it's called. We've got executive roundtables where people share information and don't have to go reinvent the wheel. But one of the things we wanted to do today, and again, knowing that time is of the essence for many of our small businesses, is to just make sure you're fully aware of some of the programs that are out there. Again, in the interest of not having to take notes, everything that I've talked about at opportunitylouisiana.com, our website, which now has a banner that says COVID-19, you click there, and you'll see a resource guide, and that's a resource guide to federal programs such as the SBA loans, that are very important, but then it takes you over to state programs, things like the fire marshal letter that Stan has distributed that came down that talks about outdoor seating. All these kinds of resources are posted on our webpage, and then we even dial down into regional outreach so that there's important information in Shreveport or Monroe or Lake Charles, wherever you may be in our state. You can dial up from that website local elements of information that are important and designed to help you move your small business forward. So keep in mind that that resource page is out there. One of the things we wanted to talk about today is this important program that provides a loan guarantee, which is basically a loan. The features of this are around speed of execution. With our program, you don't have to wait for guidance coming to you from Washington, D.C. or Baton Rouge. It's you and your banker. Most people with a small business background have a relationship with their banker. I know that when I was in the private sector, banker was very important to me. Certainly, I was in real estate and construction, so I would take the loans and make progress payments to all of the subcontractors, and then eventually get to the point where the transaction closed, and I was able to continue this working relationship with the banker. So it's important if you have that. You don't have to, but if your banker knows you and has all your documentation, there's no other forms really to fill out other than what you and he are going to go over together. What we've done is taken a $50 million pool and spoken to 125 banks across our state, and a number of them have signed up for our program. We've awarded them allocation, and they now have dollars available to loan. Now, the terms of this, okay, so we're looking for our small businesses. SBA programs target 500 or under. And I'd argue that a company with 490 employees is not a very small company. We're pushing towards companies of 100 or fewer with our loan program. It's a available funding of up to $100,000. You don't have to take that module. You take 50, 25, whatever's appropriate for your needs in discussion with your banker. And your banker is going to do the credit analysis, the underwriting, the whole package, just like he does all day, every day, and work with you. Our loan will give you these funds at no interest for 180 days. Also, during that 180-day period, no payments required. So you've got 6 months to navigate and get on your feet. After that, the interest rate will be up to 3.5%. The banker can actually dial that back a little bit if he or she wanted to. Repayment terms, you and the banker work those repayment terms out. Our maximum allowable is 5 years, but that's not to say that you have to wait that long to pay it back if that's not your plan and not your program. So low documentation requirements, basically whatever you and your banker have. He probably has your income tax returns or your information from the CPA, those kinds of things that a finance officer is going to want to get from you, and the bank makes all the decisions. So we're just here taking a percentage of the risk associated with these loans, and that gives the bank a lower risk profile. Banks aren't getting left out of the picture here. We're awarding a 1% origination fees back to the banks. So we'll be deploying when we get through with pushing a $50 million loan pool out, around $500,000 that'll go to Louisiana banks for do all the administrative work and underwriting work that they're going to put into getting these funds deployed. Now, I'm not trying to tell you the very important programs that are out there with the SBA loans are exactly that. They're very important programs. They have economic injury disaster loan that's up to $2 million, and they have the payroll protection program, which has a $10 million ceiling designed for you to maintain your payroll. It's a program that's in high demand because it's completely forgivable. It's not a loan necessarily. It's a grant in part. And I say in part because they'll award a grant for the qualifying expenses. So that's your rent, that's the payroll that's required in the program. So essentially you maintain your employment, you make those payroll checks, and then the government will then backfill what you've paid out and make you whole. That's helpful. And look, you can be doing that program while you take the LED program and combine them. So you could be paying your payroll out of the SBA program and using the LED program for working capital, new equipment, feedstock, whatever supplies or raw materials that you need to run your business. So it makes a great program, very flexible. And there's probably other types of businesses that the SBA may be red line and not allowable, but we don't have those restrictions. So a bar, a location with video poker, these are not problematic. And if you've got a working relationship with your banker, we're fine. The other part of this is if you don't have a relationship with your banker, then that's not a problem either. You just need to go to one of the banks that's or credit unions that's utilizing this program right now. All this information, again, you can click to it from our main website, but we have a website that's set up for this, and I think you can see it on the screen that we're displaying here now, but that's www.ledbizloan.com. So ledbizloan.com will take you to a site, talks you through frequently asked questions, how do I qualify and who do I talk to? And on that site, we list our current participating banks. We're adding to that list all the time. As you can imagine, we rolled out the program, and thank you for noticing, Stan, it was very rapidly made available. But for our banks to sign up, gain allocation, go back to the board of directors and make sure that the board authorizes them to join the LED program. It's just taking a little bit of time to get these banks up. So if your bank doesn't currently offer this program, we've got about 25 to 30 million of the 50 million allocation made. So we have plenty of room for additional banks across the state. We looked to make sure that there were banks in all 8 regions of our state. So there's somebody offering the program near you, but I think that your highest comfort zone is with your own banker. So if they're not in our program right now and you suggest to them that this is the product you want, we're ready, willing, and able to work with them to bring them on board and get them some allocation, and they can get this money out to the companies that need it to bridge this time frame where they've been disrupted in terms of revenues. Stan, I think that's the overview. I'm happy to discuss further or take questions or however you'd like to proceed. There's probably some other things that we could talk about if those are of interest as well.
Well, there's just a couple of questions that have come in, and I'm going to try to frame these in a way. What I would presume, and that's probably a bad thing for me, but quick question on this. As far as the program goes, are the terms of this beyond what the framework of the LED program is? Are those specific terms to be agreed upon between the lender and the bank? Is that how this is worked? If there's any additional collateral or anything else tied to it?
The collateral and those kinds of things are, again, the bank, you're going to follow their rules. They're going to do the underwriting, the credit analysis, the collateral requirements. There's no requirement from us, but the bank is our partner in this. We're an 80-20 partner, and they've got the 80. So they're going to be mindful that they believe this loan's going to perform. And so whatever collateral arrangements are their requirements, I would suggest that, they shouldn't be overboard. If you've got a $200,000 house, it shouldn't be collateral for a $25,000 loan, those types of things. But again, those decisions are with the local banker.
And does the program dictate prepayment or not, if there's a restriction on prepayment?
No restrictions on prepayment.
Okay, that's obviously another good thing. And then lastly, I've tried to frame this question. If someone is borrowing money, for example, maybe they have 4 businesses in a similar line, but they're all separate LLCs or separate corporations, is this limited to borrowers specific to one loan, or can they do this based on their number of entities that they have?
Well, again, that's probably a question for the banker. I don't know that we'd have any restrictions around that. From the banker's perspective, I think he's going to want to know. And one of the, what relates to this in part too, is where we've talked about if you've got PPE or the economic injury disaster loan programs from the SBA. What we're counseling, what we're thinking of as best practices is take that federal money and open a new account and put all that federal money in that account. And then for your PPP, pay payroll out of there, pay your rent out of there. You can pay mortgage interest out of there, but do their allowables out of there. Because one of the other things that's going to happen is that they've also put a lot of money in the bucket for the inspector general. And there's going to be a lot of audit following these programs around. And if you've put that money and not commingled it with the LED money or your other working capital money, you're going to be in a much better position to quickly move through an audit should it come to you later on. So I would suggest not commingling. But in your case of this question across 4 LLCs, from LED's perspective, no problem. From the banker and his collateral requirements, just want to be straight with him, I think.
Good. And then lastly, I think that's a great point you mentioned about the tracking of the money that might be forgivable under PPP, opening a separate bank account and depositing those funds there. And then you've got clear tracing to be able to show the use of those. And it's probably a whole lot easier to validate any of the forgivables under that if you track it that way. And perhaps, and I hate to put you on the spot, but we'd love to ask you maybe to come up with a few of those things that we can share with both the LTA and LRA members about that, because a lot of small business people don't think in that world. They're living at that moment and trying to stay alive to fight the good fight on. But if we could come up with a few of those things, I love the idea of the separate bank account, and that'll become part of our speaking pattern going forward. But just really do appreciate you guys helping us with that.
Glad to. And again, we've been fortunate to work with you, Stan, and to try to reach out across the entire span of all the restaurants. And you've taught me a lot in this process that sounds like a generic word, but the difference between drive-through and counter service and full service and all these other elements that are with us now, working closely with the fire marshal's office, moving into personal protective equipment, PPE we call it, is also a new feature for restaurants. And, you know, I went into a restaurant yesterday trying to support the local companies here, and the manager was taking the temperature with a no-touch thermometer for reporting employees that were coming on shift. Those are new things, important things, and all of that I know you'll be deploying and that we'll be hopefully playing a role in training, because to restore customer confidence and get this moving again, we're just going to have to deal with a lot of new elements.
Yeah, with our hospitality and tourism and restaurant businesses, the thing that's going to really define their future is if we've built trust that the guest feels safe going to visit there. And that's going to be kind of an all hands approach as we develop this going forward. And it is going to be different than it was before March the 10th. It's going to look different. It's going to have to be executed differently. And we're going to have to work together to expedite this as quickly as possible and hopefully end up with a better program. I do have a question that popped in. It's noticed that contacted a bank that's participating in the Southwest region and that they're only doing existing clients. And a lot of small businesses are having trouble coming up with the 20% right now. How does the loan, is that correct in that this is a 20% collateralized loan from the business? So
a couple features there. No, I don't think there's a 20% requirement. What I talked about was 80-20 participation by the state and the private bank. So what we're doing is underwriting the portions of the portfolio that may not make it. If the banker is telling you they're not taking new clients, I would suggest that maybe that's at this time. Banks are in a tough spot at this moment. Their lobbies are closed for the most part. You've got to make an appointment to go see a banker. You're probably going through a drive-through teller to sign documents if you need to do that, or signing electronically. They've got employee shortages because of schools and the same problems everybody else is facing. And then this deployment of the CARES Act bringing trillions of dollars into the economy, and in all 50 states competing for those funds for loans and for the PPP program. I was speaking with somebody yesterday that says, I've had my application in for 3 weeks and I haven't heard from anybody. Well, what happened is you get into the queue with your application, and then the money was completely subscribed on the federal program. And then Congress moved to put some more money into the program. And so now it's sort of like you were in a traffic jam and your car came to a stop, but now the lights turned green and more of those applications will progress. So this time frame when a person wasn't hearing from their bank was because there was no traffic occurring. So I hate to say be patient, but I would say be persistent and either find and convince another bank to work with you. Banks are seeing this as an opportunity to get new clients and grow their portfolio. And then if the banker is busy taking care of his portfolio of customers and trying to walk them through this more complex process with the SBA loans, they'll catch up at some point and have more time, hopefully, to deal with other customers and initiate these loans. That's just makes sense. But keep trying with your banker and tell them that you like this product. And if not, then use one of those that's listed on our website. And I think you could even, go across the districts. There's no requirements. If the bank in Southwest doesn't want to work with you, dial up some of those other ones that are listed on the site, maybe in another region that's nearby.
And I can imagine that the reason that there's a state guarantee on here, an LED guarantee on here, is to make this to mitigate the risk to the bankers, correct? I mean, that's why you're looking at this pool of capital, but it's not typical to an SBA structured loan. It's still a loan program through LED and through the local bank, but the state guarantee is to reduce the exposure to the lender. Is that right?
That's exactly right. We're lowering the risk profile for the bank because a certain percentage of these loans are going to default. And when they do, we're going to be there to soften the blow for the bank because we'll be backing up with essentially a fund of $10 million. So it should be a win-win-win. And particularly this feature that you don't have to follow the guidance from Washington, D.C. This is a program that the bank can use their own in-house standard operating procedures and execute very quickly. So low documentation, speed to market, low interest, 6-month holiday on payments and interest. Then to 3.5% over the balance of the term. You just couldn't ask for anything more flexible. I don't think.
That's absolutely a fact. Another point, just quickly, is there a time limit for the program to apply with the bank? Is there a window that will close on this?
So the only real deadlines out there are we're telling the banking industry that by May 29th, they need to have raised their hand and say, we want to be a part of this program. Again, out of that $50 million pool, we've got about 20 million booked, and then we've got commitments for about another 10 million. So we're going to try to get the subscription of the full 50 million out. And I think as soon as it's just been a very crowded environment, I want the SBA monies and I want our companies to get full benefit of the PPP. That's great. I want them to have that forgivable loan. We're not in competition with those programs. We're complementing them. We're giving you an extra way to be successful here. So if it takes a little more time to roll it out, that's not problematic. And by 29 May, we want to be fully subscribed with as many banks in as many communities across the state as we can. And we've got a team right now that's working closely with the banks to even roll this program out. We talked to 125 banks. We got feedback on the program, some things before we rolled it out that we could improve. We took a number of those suggestions and improved the program. And we had about 40 banks that had strong interest. Again, and they've just been too busy to get back to us. And we're signing more banks up every day. So the goal is a banker in your community, hopefully your banker participating in the program and giving you the capital you need to secure your business and come out of this on the far end when we've got customers showing back up, when we got tourism restarted, that you're able to open your doors. And it's just it's a tough time. And this is a way that we can play a role in helping you get through the tough time.
Well, we don't have any more questions in the queue. Go ahead, Jill.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if there is someone who has a relationship with their bank and they're not participating in the program, is there somebody specifically within your organization that they need to contact?
Certainly, and Pat Whitty's here with me, and you can, probably the best thing to do is we've set up an email box that's LED biz loan, BIZ loan at la.gov, and that'll go directly into the project manager's view. And again, I don't think there's very many banks we haven't reached out to already, but we'd like to, and we're encouraging them to get to the program when they have the time and the capacity to do so. But if your members and people are out there telling that banker, hey, I'd sure like to be able to take advantage of this great state program, I think if they hear that from a few customers, they'll get moving towards this. So if we push from both ends, we'll get more money out, we'll help more companies, and at the end of the day, we'll help maintain this important role that the small businesses play in our state's economy.
Well, Secretary Pearson,
appreciate everything.
Absolutely. We certainly appreciate your time. And that email address again is ledbizloan@la.gov. And we'll update the slide and put it on our website. And we'll send it also to LTA so they can have it. If you have a question for us, communications@lra.org or our telephone number there. And for LTA, Lane@LouisianaTravelAssociation.org or Laura@LouisianaTravelAssociation.org. We certainly appreciate the Secretary and LED and LTA for partnering with us on this. Working together, we're going to build a better future for Louisiana, and we beg your patience as we continue to try to pivot and come up with ideas and programs that support small business. So thank you very much for your time, and we appreciate you joining us today. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Jill.
Great partnership, both of you all. Thank you for the leadership role you're playing and providing these informative opportunities for your members. And we can't do it alone. We're all in this together.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a blessed day.
Sir.